Hello and welcome to this video. Today we will be going through this scene. I'll show you how I made everything, and yeah, let's have a look at the scene first. So we have a cathedral. This was modeled by me, so everything in this scene was made by me besides, well, textures. Obviously I don't make my own textures, but this was modeled, this was also simulated and also composited by me. There's lots of things going on, but all in all it's a pretty simple scene still. And we have some effects here, we have some smoke and some glow. We have lots of stuff that can be covered. Today I will only be showing my 3D scene and not the compositing. If this video gets good reviews, I don't mind going through the compositing as well. But yeah, let's just head into the 3D scene, and you will immediately notice that it looks quite different. That's of course because there is no compositing done here yet. And yeah, this is very important to mention, because while you do want your 3D to look as nice as possible, you will have to do a lot of compositing to make it like look perfect, because it doesn't make sense to tweak everything in your 3D, because it's usually a lot more work than just doing a basic compositing. We can also go around a bit and just have a look at the scene, so you kind of get a feel for how this is all structured. But yeah, let's turn off the render view. So here we have the cathedral. As I said, I modeled this everything. And if we have a look around, you can see that obviously I didn't entirely make the cathedral, I just made it for a specific angle. Because making everything would take weeks. And I think I modeled this in like 1 or 2 days, because I just made a small fraction of the whole cathedral. And I mean, there isn't anything special that I did. And I'm not gonna make a sort of in-depth modeling tutorial for this. If somebody wants me to make a video on how to model this, I'd be open to do that, but I think the structure is pretty straightforward. The way I modeled I sort of started to make like this base wall, and I started with the base roof, and I usually start with the biggest sort of structures, like the main shapes, or like the wall, and then this here and the roof and this whole wall here. And then I sort of start thinking about what details I'm gonna do next. Then I usually make structures like these here, like these ones, because they have sort of a mid-size, and then I add some towers. So you get the idea. I start from big to small, and when I have all my sort of medium-sized stuff done, I will start to add some windows. I will maybe add these poles, and I'll think about adding these crevices and details, and sort of these things are last, because they're super small, have super small details, and I'll also add these small details for last as well. So that's usually my workflow. Yeah, but if we look at the wireframe, there isn't anything like super standing out. I try to keep it very simple, not too high poly. As you can see, we even have some overlaps here, because I just couldn't care less for a hobby project like this. And yeah, all these things are pretty low poly, because I knew I wouldn't go too close to the object. And even the windows, I mean, obviously you need to like keep the proportions right. It needs to look good, but it doesn't necessarily need to be a super high poly. But yeah, it's really not that special. Anybody could model this. It's super basic. It just takes time and patience to model this. But yeah, let's turn on the environment and let's have a look at that. So yeah, these are not sculpted, these are entirely texture driven. I tried to sculpt the rocks, but it was just too much work, so I ended up just using a basic texture. So yeah, let's have a look at the textures. Just opened up a shader and a UV editor. This is the displacement texture. Yeah, and this is the shader setup. It's really just a basic texture. It's like I didn't do anything special. I just took a lot of time to find the right texture, the right displacement texture. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I rotated the UVs, pretty sure, because yeah, I messed with the rotation because the way the rock was sort of done, or the way the texture was, is obviously that that it was like rotated in a different way, because it does look a bit weird, like the sort of stone that kind of, it looks like it grows upwards. It just looks weird, but I really like that. So I just messed around with the UV directions, so it gave off that look. So it's a pretty simple solution actually, and you get, to be honest, it looks great. Like I would definitely reuse this texture for anything else where I need sort of a basic sort of cliff look, because it gives lots of small details, like the lighting. If you do the lighting right, it just looks super great. I didn't really do anything that special for the shading for the cathedral. I searched quite a long time for the right brick texture. If you look close, like it's not that great. Like I didn't even UV it properly, because again, this was just a sort of fun project, so I didn't want to spend too much time on it. But yeah, if you look closely here, like I didn't do any UVing, so don't feel bad if you if maybe your details aren't that great, because if you don't need them, you don't need to do it. Like if I were to make close-ups of this, obviously I have to redo all the UVs and textures, but from far away, again, I can show the image again. You don't notice it. I mean, maybe here a bit, but even so, nobody has really pointed it out yet, that they say the textures look odd, because there's lots of other things that you focus on in the image. And yeah, from far away, it looks pretty good. We don't have anything special going on. I have a image texture, a few, like a normal map, roughness map, AO, and a color. And to sort of break the repetition, I just threw on like a noise texture, super basic, to give this like worn, dirty sort of grunge to it. And yeah, again, to sort of break the repetition a bit. Yeah, we have the roof, it has a texture as well. You can see some very interesting smudges. So, you know, when you build a scene like this, especially a scene that isn't realistic at all, I tend to just not care about any texturing principles. Like I'm not gonna go to the roof and add super realistic scratches, unless that's the point, which it wasn't. I just wanted to have an interesting look, and in this case I just used finger smudges. I think it's like smudges from, yeah, fingerprints, and sort of threw that on because it looks great. Like it gives a lot of detail. It looks very weird. It looks like it's kind of wet, but also not really. It's super strange, but I just like the look of it. I think it gave very interesting reflections. And I think this is a good example of not always needing to do super realistic textures, because again, if you go far away, this just looks interesting. It doesn't even make a lot of sense, but it just gives the metal a very interesting shine under the sort of moonlight. And it makes it a bit more like mystical, if that's an English word. And yeah, I reuse the texture for all sort of the roofs. So I try not to over texture things. I try to keep it simple, especially again for a project that is supposed to be done quickly. But also, if you have too many different textures, in my opinion, it just looks, it's just too much. And if you want to have a certain style, if I want to, well, make a certain style like this one, I'm gonna go with a few textures. I'm gonna stick to them. I'm gonna make variations of them with different colors. But I'm not going to make a different roof texture for this and for this and for this. It doesn't really make sense. It will look too like separated. I want it all to be, I want it all to merge well. So this one also has the brick texture, and as you can see here, the smudges. Like you definitely need to have like a nice ratio between the textures you have. So we have like brick here, and now we have metal here again, and metal here, or maybe that's metal as well. Like if these were brick, it wouldn't look as interesting, because you can see this gives from further away. It just looks a lot better because these pop out a bit better from like the rock. If these were also rock, it wouldn't look that good because you don't have the contrast. So yeah, the way I see it is I have my image and I'm sort of layering all these things on top of other. So I'm layering all these things on top of each other, and in order to make that look good, I need to have contrast between all these layers, right? So this needs to pop out from this one. So also the lighting needs to make this pop out as well. There's lots of things that go into this. It's not only the textures, but also the lighting, of course. But yeah, let's not get caught up in the details too much. Yeah, that's basically the texturing. It's super simple. This didn't take too much time. Obviously, you need to find the right textures and you need to do all the variations. It's quite a pain to do. But if you were to UV unwrap everything and maybe even hand paint some stuff, you're never gonna be finished. And again, if you are getting paid to do so, then that's totally fine. But for a project like this, I'm not gonna waste time. For this path, actually, you can see that I did, in fact, give these sort of two separate textures. Because having this whole thing have like one texture didn't look good. I needed the rocks here to sort of have a different direction, and it looks great. I even modeled it a bit. You can see I have like yeah, I made like an inner extrusion and just pushed it down a bit, just to give it like a path look. Like just looks like a path more. Otherwise it would just lack the detail again, like because with that inner extrusion we get sort of these rocks that point out over the edge, which just looks fantastic in my opinion. It looks great. Yeah, so next thing is gonna be the lights. The lighting is pretty basic. I mean, as you can imagine, all the stuff down here is just lights. So if I turn these off, obviously you have a completely different look. But yeah, this adds lots more interesting colors, and I sort of wanted to have this generic orange, red, and bluish contrast. I think it fits very well for this case. Then I have a slight fill light from the left. Because if I turn this off, I felt like it would, yeah, like it is too dark. So I kind of filled up the light a bit. It also gives like the feeling that like the stuff behind the camera might be a bit larger, or like there's a huge lava pool. Because if I turn this off, it just looks like it's like just coming from like the bottom. And when I turn this off, this whole side gets sort of lit up a bit. So it looks like maybe in the distance there's another bigger light source that brightens this up. Alright, and let's turn on the volume actually. Volumetric is also super straightforward. I just wanted to have like this super intense moonlighting. And the way I did it is that I just I just cut out super simple shapes with the select circle, and I just deleted the mesh. And then I have the spotlight that's shining through the holes. And you have to really the tricky, well, it's not tricky, it's super basic, but the only things you have to look out for is like the distance sort of between the light and your shape can make a huge difference. And yeah, then you just need the super basic volumetric. I added some like a noise texture. You can see it a bit here, like you can see the noise here a bit. If I turn this off, it's gonna be super straight, and I didn't want that. wanted a bit more like grunge sort of in the noise, in the volume. So yeah, that's again super basic. Just add a spotlight, add a plane with a few holes in front of it, add the volumetric, and you have your like God rays or like your moon rays or whatever. Super basic. You could also do this in compositing, but I feel like doing this in 3D gives you definitely a visual advantage because you do have an actual 3D volume, and in compositing it's just 2D, but it can look just as good in 2D. Like if it's a still render, it doesn't really matter. Like you can't even see the rays that much here, and you could definitely do this in compositing as well. But I just wanted to do it in the 3D. I think I did not add a sunlight, so the spotlight is actually the key light. Yeah, you can light it however you want. To be honest, you could use a sunlight and then again use another intense spotlight, but it would just double itself and it doesn't make any sense, so I just used the spotlight in this case. Yeah, there's also a light in here as well, and I also added this technique here. I don't know, to be honest, how much this actually does. I could have done it better. I could have like I just reused my other plane, but you could definitely make this a lot better. To be honest, the color should also be a bit redder, but yeah, you get the idea. Alright, so we have lighting and then we have the FX. So there isn't a lot going on here as well with the FX. It's all, as I said, it's all a super simple scene. It just you need the model, obviously, you need the cathedral, and you just need a few like you need good lighting and a few FX, and you're good. But yeah, this is super simple fog texture. I didn't use any volumetrics for this. It's definitely not necessary if they are like super at the edge of the screen. Super basic. And here we have lava. So this is the mesh, and the texture is, I think, pretty simple. I don't know, to be honest, if I'm pretty sure I made the shader myself. I'm pretty sure I made it myself because it's super messy. Yeah, I just made like I just basically made lots of noises and I combined them and I colorized them. I added some normals from the some bump from the lava noise, and it's just textures on top of textures. I'm pretty sure I made the one myself. Maybe I downloaded it, but looking at how badly done this is, it's like how quickly done this is, I'm pretty sure I made it myself. You can easily see the repetition here. I remember making it the shader, and I wasn't really happy with anything. So I just said screw it, and now it looks like this. Because if you go far away, it's the only thing that's important is that the magma doesn't have like one consistent color, but just has different like types of red, like a bit of darker one. Like you can see it here, like you can see lots of different colors. And this is the thing, this is an interesting thing, because obviously if you're not going to be close up, it doesn't really matter that much, because if you go far away, it looks pretty decent, because yeah, you have lots of different oranges and reds, and it's totally fine. And the way I made this, I didn't make this in Blender. You definitely can, I think. So I don't know too much about simulation in Blender. I usually avoid it because it's not that great, but I think with flip fluids you definitely can make this, and probably with the base Blender. I don't know if you can get like these nice shapes, but yeah, I made it with real flow, and it just looks interesting. I just made like a cylinder, I shot out the fluid, and I exported like the rocks. I have the base rocks and used them as a collider, and yeah, there you get like this sort of interesting splash. And as you can see, the scene is pretty simple. Like there's lots of things going on, definitely. Like you obviously need the 3D model of the cathedral. You need to have your textures. You need to simulate this lava. And then you also need to do compositing, which I'm not gonna cover in this video. Maybe if people want me to make a compositing tutorial, I can show you how I did the compositing for this, but it's also super, super simple. yeah, I hope that this video is maybe helpful to some people, and let me know if I should make more of this. Have a nice day.